Now that you understand what the basic lights are in After Effects, let's go ahead and let's apply some lights to this composition. Really quickly, I'll just show you what I've done so far. This composition is just simply the whale shark and it's swimming across the sea. Our view is a bird's eye view, so we're looking down. Just so you know how I have created this animation, I made a pre-comp of the whale shark, and all I did here was use the puppet tool. I just placed a couple puppet pins and I just created a really simple animation of the whale shark's tail moving back and forth. Then I went ahead and placed this inside of my main composition, and I'm using time remapping along with an expression so that the animation loops as the whale shark swims across the composition. Let's go ahead and add a light to our project. I'm going to go to Light, New, Light. And for this example, I'm going to add a parallel light. We'll leave the color at white. The intensity can be 75%. And for fall off, we're going to use smooth. And for radius, I'll use 100. And my fall off distance, I'll leave at 500. I do want to cast shadows. And for shadow darkness, we'll leave this at 100%. Remember that all of these values can be augmented in the timeline. So even if you're not sure what to put, just try something and then you can always make adjustments later. I'll click OK, and as you can see I have my new parallel light. What we're going to do is we're going to open up the light. We'll go to Light Options, and we already turned on Cast Shadows, although I'm not seeing any shadows within my scene. There's a couple of things that we need to augment in order to make the shadows work correctly. The first thing we need to do is we're going to need to go into the whale shark, and we're going to need to open up the Material Options area. Right now you can see that Cast Shadows is set to off, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. I want to ensure that this element will be able to cast shadows. In addition to setting if the element is going to be able to cast shadows, you can also set if it's going to accept shadows or accept light. I'm going to turn Accept Shadows to off, and Accept Light will stay at on. Now I'll go into the C layer, and on this layer I'm going to open up my Material Options, and once again I don't want this one to cast shadows, but I do want it to accept shadows, so we need to verify that Accept Shadows is on. We still don't really see the shadow as the whale shark swims across the stage. Part of the reason that we're having this problem is that the light may need to be adjusted. The easiest way to do this is to open up a separate view. I'll switch to two views, and here you can see I have a top view on the right and my default view on the left. My default view is not active, and currently it looks really dark. What we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to make sure that the light has enough of a radius. So I'm going to go into the light layer and I'll adjust my radius. As you can see, as soon as I start to adjust the radius of this light, my scene on the left is going to get more lit, and we immediately see the shadow that appears underneath the whale shark. I'll just go ahead and up the radius value to about 1,000. Now that we have this, if we scrub through the timeline, you can see our whale shark and you can see the shadow. Now, my shadow is very hard edged, so I'm going to want to adjust the shadow. One of the things that we can do here is we can adjust the shadow darkness. If we decrease this value, you're going to see instead of being a black shadow, the shadow is going to become more gray, which will be more natural. In addition to that, I'm going to want to adjust the position of the whale shark. I need to pull the whale shark a little bit farther in front of the sea so that the shadow is going to not be directly underneath the whale shark. Let's do that now. I'll open up the whale shark layer. I'm going to go to Transform, and we're going to adjust the Z position. So once again, I'm going to want to move the whale shark out in time. Now, because I had already set keyframes, you can see what's happening right here. We're actually affecting our animation. So the whale shark is going to kind of like swim out in Z space. I'm going to do Undo, and what I'll do is I'll select all of my position keyframes, Now that they're all selected, I'm going to come back to the beginning of my composition, and if we make a change to the Z position, you can see that we are affecting both of the keyframes, which is what we want. So I'm just going to pull this out a little bit. Now I'll select the light, and I'm going to move the position of the light. If I pull the light in a little bit, which in my opinion is somewhat counterintuitive because right now the light seems like it's on the inside of the element, but sometimes this can help with the placement of the shadow. So I'm just going to adjust this so I can place the shadow at the location in which I want. I think this is starting to look pretty good. If I go ahead and play my animation, you will see that the default view is not rendering, even though the playback head is moving. If you scrub through, you should see the animation. If this ever happens to you, it's probably that After Effects is using too many resources. So if you simply go back to one view, and I'm just going to say fit to 100%, and we play our animation, we should now see the animation playing correctly. Because I'm in the draft 3D view, you may not see the shadow, but if we turn this off, now we should see the animation playing correctly. There's our shadow, there's our light, and there's our animated element. I just wanted to point out some of the things that you may encounter when you're dealing with lights, so keep these things in mind. Adding lights can really enhance your project, and adding multiple lights can certainly change the overall mood and feeling of your composition. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a light with a little bit of color. We'll reduce the intensity down and we'll go ahead and click OK. This will affect my scene. You can experiment around with using different sorts of light settings and adjusting the different sorts of values. You can always change the type of light as well. So you don't necessarily have to be stuck with that particular light type. You can always change it to a different light type and make adjustments as needed if you're trying to change the look or the feel of your project. I would encourage you to experiment around with lights. They can really add a lot of realism and a lot of interest to your projects. You can combine lights and really add as many as you need into your project. We'll be working with lights throughout the rest of the course as we explore using different techniques to create exciting animations within After Effects.